So this is not story time.
This is not story time.
This is not story time. And
Just chatting.
I was told I need to be nice.
He's being super lippy this evening.
Well, you know what? I don't want to lie. So why
Are
don't
you
we
gonna
just?
play with tape?
It's fidgety. I'm fidgety.
I like the
Like the
tape.
gold.
I
Okay,
like
so
the
start the conversation.
So
What's
we're going to be chatting about trying to find a balance, and we are.
Because that's what we've got.
Nobody said we found a balance. It's
Balancing it all.
or if I think finding the balance is better.
When I was in college, I was known for doing handstands.
Right.
Right? It was the dumbest thing in the world. Like,
It was like your thing, though.
it was like my thing. I could do a handstand on anything,
Really?
even on basketballs.
Really?
And it was a balancing act.
Why have I never seen that? Never mind your.
I could try.
You're too old to do that now. I love you,
I'm way too old.
but I just
Yeah.
feel like that might be catastrophic.
Catastrophic. Thank you. So the balance means that finding the balance. I think we are actively pursuing that
I agree.
balance.
I agree.
I don't think we have ever gotten to a balancing point, and if we had, it's like the general
It's a
theory of
glimpse.
relativity.
It's for a moment. But no, I agree with you. We had like a week last month where John was able to come up every day and be there for dinner, and it was amazing. And I was like,
It's a moment in time.
we have got this figured out, and the freaking next week was just.
So we have been going after this balance that Whitney's talking
Right.
about. The title calls.
Right.
Hitting it hard and learning how to balance a schedule with multiple people hitting multiple projects in multiple directions.
Right.
And it's balancing a lot. If you can imagine plates, different heights of plates,
Right.
different size plates, different shapes plates, and it's not just one person, it's 8 people trying to keep those up at the same time, and once in a while you run into each other, plates start falling, you have to catch them. What if they break?
Right.
The problem we fell into was the finite.
Right. We thought we had found the
No.
balance.
That wasn't the phrase.
Mm.
We had dialed it in.
Dialed it.
Now, if you don't know what that phrase means in the industry, for dialing in a mix, when you dial in a mix, you have a set, you've designed the mix in the lab, then you're bringing the mix out to the field, and you've got to tweak the mix.
Based on your field conditions.
Based on your field conditions, your mixer, your batching sequence, you've got to tweak the mix.
Right.
Now, when something is dialed in a way, it's a very outside of concrete, outside of measurements, it's a very subjective thing.
Sure.
It has a finite sound to it,
Like I've got this handled.
but there's no real measurement to it.
Right.
So we had a cluster, a skadoosh, happen a week and a half ago when it was just overwork and overwork.
Yeah.
And what we had thought was a dialed in
Right.
balance
Right.
was actually a piece of the process, a draft, if you will.
Right.
And I think that's the true nature of finding the balance.
Is having it be dynamic and just recognizing that
Ever-changing.
you've got to always just roll with it and.
Be able to adapt. What do you feel like is the hardest thing about balancing the schedule?
For me, at least, it's figuring out how to be present with what I'm doing, because I get up really early, and then God bless our middle child, she hears me at 4:00 in the morning and is like, "Hey, let's do this." And so the time that the hour and a half I had hoped that I would have, and the kids I had hoped would wake up at 5:30 at a more reasonable time, doesn't happen. And so I try to find the balance between, being present and being a good mom, and that's hard. And then with work. So.
One of the problems that I find is that owning a business,
You never can let it go and leave it be.
you can try to let it go and leave it be, but if you ignore the reality that, part of you wants to be down here when you're with your kids.
And then when you're here, you're thinking
part
about
of
the
you wants
kids.
to be
You're
up there
like,
with the
I'm
kids.
missing time with the kids.
So how do you reconcile those thoughts when you can, so you can get the most out of it?
Sure.
And I think that part of that balance is recognizing that you first have to create a rubric of, this is what I'm going to allow myself to do at work.
Right.
And you have to be honest with that. And with our schedule,
Right.
in the past, we haven't been honest. We said to ourselves, we're only going to work this much, and something would come up, somebody would flash like a rush order
Right.
check in front of our face and be like, heck yeah,
Right.
crank it out this weekend. 8 mixes, done on a Sunday. 4-hour breaks too.
Right.
Like, let me
Right.
build another maturity box for you. Whatever I could do, what? That's what we did.
Right.
And it's only now, like, I have a dream. And I know this is going to sound crazy. I love concrete, and concrete is my job, my passion. But my dream was to be a dad. My dream was to be a dad and be a stay-at-home dad and teach my kids. I mean, I want to homeschool our kids.
Right.
And I told my mom and dad, and they're like, there's no way.
Right.
It's not realistic. You don't have that balance. And I think the hardest part for me is recognizing that I didn't actually want a balance until recently. I wanted it to be imbalanced on the work side.
Yeah.
I like being down here.
Yeah.
I feel good down here. I like being with my
You
family
like being
too.
productive.
I like being productive.
You need to be productive.
Yeah, and
Like, that is very much part of who you are.
And ignoring that over the last few years and trying to lie to myself, that has been reconciling that and adjusting the schedule based, now that I know the type of creature that I am and
Sure.
I'm comfortable with it, we can adjust the schedule accordingly, but I have to adopt the schedule, knowing full well that this is the time that I dedicate to work,
Right.
and then once I leave, I've done my part.
Right.
I fulfill that part of my being.
Right.
I have a responsibility, an obligation, and a love for my children and my wife
Right.
that I have to dedicate time to.
Right.
That I want to dedicate time.
No, I get what
But
you're saying
right.
though. I get what you're saying. And no, it's it's a lot the same with me too. It's finding that, reconciling that I do enjoy working, and having that time where I'm contributing to our finances and contributing to our business. But then also it's being, for me, I really think it's being present with what I'm doing, because I feel like just being a mom, there's a lot of guilt that comes with a lot of aspects of it. And if you're away, you feel guilty that you're not with the kids. And then if you're with the kids, you feel guilty that you're not doing more or contributing. So it's like there's just kind of always this like level of guilt, like I'm just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that is incredibly hard.
So that being said, when we were in charge of the schedule,
Right.
we were not very honest with it.
Right.
And what we had to do is, it's like, I have some very good friends that are very wealthy, brilliant business people, but they're horrible health-wise.
Mm.
And they haven't been able to reconcile why they're bad at doing it. They just don't want to deal with that and get into the healthcare.
Right.
So they delegate it out. They're paying somebody to take care of it. They have personal trainers, personal chefs, and they don't have to worry about that anymore. So Whitney and I went the same task, or went through the same motions. That it's hard for us to say, cut it off with the work. Enough is enough.
Right. There's always going to be more that needs to be done. One more email, one more phone call.
And
At
you know
some
what?
point, you just got to be like, okay.
And this business, it wasn't about chasing the dollar.
Mm-mm.
We wanted to save the world with all the concrete in it, and we're doing that.
Right.
But we've got 3 great kids
I
up
know.
there. So instead of us being responsible for the schedule, we put somebody else in charge. And we told her, I told her,
Right.
as soon as you own this schedule, as soon as I get to have recurring classes or hangout time with my kids, you're getting a raise. I put an incentive for her
Right.
to give Whitney and I the time. Before she started working, I was working 22-hour days. There was one day where I came in I think there were 72 hours of work in one day. It wasn't that much.
Oh,
It wasn't that
oh,
much.
just your yeah.
It was like 32
six-
hours
it
on the schedule. So it was something
Was it?
ridiculous. So we hired somebody that I've known for a decade and a half.
Right.
Wonderful person, responsible, amazing at scheduling, just
Right.
a brilliant person, and who doesn't take anybody's shtick.
Right.
And you put it on them, the responsibility to own that schedule
Right.
and understand the inner workings of it,
Right.
and marry that up to your goals and objectives, not only for the business growth, but for that life balance.
Sure.
And so far,
We're getting there.
we're getting there. We're not dialed in yet. We're dialing it in.
Yeah.
But you know what? To see growth,
Right. Oh, it was huge.
huge. And by the way, if you don't find that balance, and you keep it like this,
Mm-hmm.
the work life always takes over, you're gonna break. I don't care how tough you are.
Yeah.
I don't care how tough you are. You know, there's Gary Vee who says, you know, hustle, hustle, hustle. There's, you know, people, Tony Robbins, 11,000 calories in a day. The body is like a car. It has a certain amount of miles on it. And unlike a car, you can't replace the parts as easy.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hustle and you can push hard, but you have to recognize that the body needs to heal.
Right.
The great speaker, Tom Hopkins, and I don't think Tom Hopkins is given enough credit in
Agreed.
my generation.
Agreed.
You know, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tim Ferriss.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of big names out there. Tom Hopkins once said, "You must do the most productive thing at every given moment."
And sometimes
Sometimes.
that is hanging out by the fire with a cup of coffee, snuggling up with your kids.
That's not what he said. He said sometimes sitting on a beach in Hawaii with the Mai Tai
Well, that's
is the
not,
most productive thing you can do.
That's
so,
not really ours, but yeah.
So thanks for joining us. It was a little bit of a different take on tonight's video where we talk more about our business. Let us know if you like this. We were trying to be as candid and as authentic as possible. Comment, questions below. Like, subscribe. Concrete note,
Yes.
ABCs of ASR. We're coming out with 3 new books in 6 weeks. Go Concrete.
Beat asphalt.